Good evening. Welcome to the Selectmen's meeting for February 11th at 6 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Don Klein, present.
Wayne Miller, present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
It's been moved. We were corrected.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was advised, Mr. Chairman, that the flag is to the right of the speaker unless the speakers are on the same level as the audience, and then it goes to the right of the audience.
Good to know. Okay. Announce the meeting is being tape recorded. We are not live tonight. Is that correct, Hartley?
That is correct.
Okay, so this will be on YouTube at some other point. Chairman's additions and deletions. I don't have any. Do we have any?
No, I did want to just address briefly up front. There's an item under my report, 5.1.10, and I gather that there's been some anticipation about this perhaps,
okay.
And I just wanted to say in the beginning of the meeting that the expectation under that section is that I'm just going to be letting you know that a complaint has been received from an employee, that I've done my diligence on it, and I'll have a report for you tomorrow as a confidential personnel matter, and then it can be taken up at the executive session at the next meeting. Okay. So I know there was some discussion apparently about whether or not this is going to be a public matter this evening, and I just wanted to let people know at 6 o'clock instead of waiting until we convene executive sessions and then come back.
Okay. Great. Public comment period. Ms. Lewan.
Pull this back up here. I have two questions. The first is was the chief's position posted externally or only internally?
Chief of
Police.
Internally first.
First. So, when will you decide whether it goes out?
That is up to the search committee. They understand they've met once already. I think they have another scheduled meeting in the next week.
Coming up next week, correct.
So there'll be an internal review first.
Under the impression from a couple of them that they almost feel like it's a done deal and it's kind of a waste of their time.
Absolutely not.
Okay, that was a question. Another one is, I see that on the agenda that there's still the vacant position of the grant writer. I think someone was told several months ago that there were two people that had put in their applications, and that was months ago, and that someone would be hired soon, and there's still, my main question is why hiring anybody in this town takes months to years in a position. It seems that we're told that someone's going to be hired, and then it goes on for another year before it's filled.
Well, I haven't had an update either, so I'm anxious to hear myself. So.
Okay.
Anybody else?
That's it.
Okay. 6:05-ish. Joint meeting with the library trustees. Do we have to read this?
Yeah.
Okay. This posting is to notify the residents of Townsend that the Board of Selectmen may appoint a library trustee in a joint committee of the Board of Selectmen and the library trustees in accordance with 3.1 F1 of the Townsend Charter. This will be scheduled on the meeting agenda for the Board of Selectmen on February 11th, 2020. I see we have a representative from the libraries.
We had a vacancy. We posted for official amount of time. We had volunteers come forward, and we approved Farron Corn for appointment until the next election in April, effective whenever it's approved.
And does that fall into the Corey and probationary stuff as well?
Yeah, we had it posted for. We worked with the town clerk to make sure it was posted for the official amount of time. I didn't receive any outside inquiries other than Aaron, so.
I'm just saying after the appointment, Corey check and all that. Is that part of it?
But this is a trustee, and I'm not certain that the trustees generally go through.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
No, that's okay. No,
I'm thinking library position.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So that's we just need approval.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the, and I'm sorry, what was it?
Appointment of Aaron Korn.
Aaron Korn to
Library trustee.
library trustees.
Effective till the next election.
Yep.
Okay. And I'll second that. Any discussion or questions?
Nothing for me.
I welcome all volunteers, so.
Exactly.
Can we get a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Executive session pursuant to General Law C, Chapter 30A, S 21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position or litigating position and the chair so declares, and I do. Kelly Merrow et al. Versus Town of Townsend et al. And Robert Eaton versus Town of Townsend et al. So, thank you, folks. This shouldn't take too long.
Motion to go in.
Have a motion?
I make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to the collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position or litigating positions and the chair so declares. Reference Kelly Merrill et al. Versus Town of Townsend et al. And Robert Eaton versus Town of Townsend et al.
And we'll be coming back into open.
And we'll come back into open session once we complete.
And I'll second that. Roll call vote, please.
Don Klein, yes?
Wayne Miller, yes. So. And we're back from executive session. So we're up to 4.1. Vote to authorize the town administrator to sign the MVP planning grant contract.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, the planning board was successful in submitting, you signed a letter of support on behalf of the MVP planning grant. They were awarded $22,000. There's a very narrow window to expend the funds. It's by June 30 of this year. They've put a proposal, solicitation for proposals out. They received 3 to date. 2 have been reviewed by the planning board as of last evening, I was advised. 1 has not yet been reviewed, but this would authorize me to execute the standard form contract and the contract for the consultant that the planning board ultimately selects, so we don't get caught in waiting in a 2-week window when it's such a tight time frame.
Okay. Can I get a motion, please?
I make a motion that we authorize the town administrator to sign the MVP planning grant contracts.
Second. Any discussion? Questions?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
4.2, vote to accept on behalf of the Townsend Fire EMS Department a grant in the amount of $39.63 for student awareness of fire education and $23.48 for senior education from State Fire Marshal Office. Just a simple grant?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, simple grant, just a vote to receive.
Okay.
I make a motion that we accept on behalf of the Townsend Fire EMS Department a grant in the amount of $3,965 for the student awareness of fire education and for $2,348 for the senior education from the State Fire Marshal's Office.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope, I'm familiar with them.
Okay. Would hope so. All those in favor?
Aye.
4.3, review, approve, and sign engineering contract with Summit Engineering and Survey, Inc. in the amount of $23,450 for the design of the sidewalk on the town common.
Mr. Chairman, the Cemetery and Parks Commission has had the lead on this project, and Roger, the superintendent, has worked with me on the procurement. They've gone out to bid, and this is the recommended contractor, Summit Engineering and Survey, to do the design work for the sidewalk project, to replace all the sidewalks in the common.
So we're moving forward finally.
Moving forward.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we approve and sign out of session the engineering contract with Summit Engineering and Survey Incorporated in the amount of $22,450 for the design of the sidewalks in the town common.
And I'll second that. So this is just the first step, correct? And then
They're hoping to have project done this summer.
Okay, and this is the money that we got under the grant?
Correct.
comes under Tran, right?
Yeah.
Okay. just out of curiosity, since I was a part of it last night, how much will this affect the band concert?
My understanding was they were hoping to get the design work done through the spring and into the early summer, then go out to bid, and then at the end of the summer, once the concerts are done, do the actual work then.
Okay, so I won't interrupt anything. Okay,
That's the plan.
You made a motion, I seconded, correct?
Yep.
Okay, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4.4, review, approve, assign an agreement with William August and Epstein and August LLP regarding the formation of nonprofit cable corporation.
Again, Mr. Chairman, this one is, just as it says, this is the second piece of the parallel tracks with the cable. We've got the issue of getting the lines extended down to the area down beyond
Vinton Pond?
Yeah, thank you, Vinton Pond. And the second part of this process was actually forming the cable corporation. This is the committee's recommendation on hiring counsel to do the creation of the nonprofit. So you can't have the same council or town council do that because it's creating an outside entity.
Okay. So this is moving the project
It is.
finally. Okay.
Indeed.
All right, can I get a motion, please?
I make a motion that we approve and sign the, whoops, wrong one. I make a motion that we approve an agreement with William August and of Epstein and August LLP in regards to the formation of a nonprofit cable access corporation.
I'll second.
Sign out of session, if you would.
Sign out of session.
I'll second that. Any other discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Review sign the warrant for the presidential primary to be held on March 3rd, 2020. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we review and sign the warrant for the presidential primary to be held on March 3rd, 2020, and sign out of session.
Second. Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
4.6, reviews, approve, sign the agreement for the interim superintendent services for the Townsend Water Department. Can I get a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve and sign out of session the agreement for the interim superintendent services for the water department.
I'll second that.
Can I just
Oh, we can
sign?
do it now? Okay.
So this is just an extension of...
It is. Correct.
I forget her name, I'm
Question.
sorry. Rebecca, I'm sorry.
Well, I didn't get to read it completely through. What's the time period on this one? For how long?
Oh, goodness.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but I think it's the same.
The same
amount of
Same
time.
sub $10,000 threshold.
Threshold
Yeah.
for how many days?
It's more hours than days, but
More than hours
I
than
don't, off the top of my head, I don't know.
And I just handed you my copy, so I can't look at it.
Okay. The reason I'm asking the question is because we've gone through this is what, the third time we've had to do this and extend out? I really don't want to have to do this again. Is there a way that we can extend this beyond without getting into?
Adam and I are at loggerheads on that. I still maintain that it's 30B exempt. I've gone through DOR twice with the contract. Adam doesn't agree, so I, other than doing it this way, I have no idea, and maybe start, hopefully we'll be on our way to getting a full-time superintendent, but maybe starting on the, if we need it, start on it now, because we started on this one, I think, December 17th. So...
I would recommend doing that just in anticipation, as well as...
That would be, we're meeting another time this week, and that'll be my recommendation.
Okay, and hopefully fast track finding somebody to permanent.
Who do you want me to sign?
Fast track, but I'd rather get qualified candidates, so.
I agree, but
Jim,
You know what I'm
do you want us to sign?
Left-hand side there are a couple of blank spots. Yeah, right in there.
Right there?
Yep.
I'd like her on hand for a little bit of time with them. I think we kind of talked about that for like a transition, because there's some things that are going on that they would need to.
All those in favor?
follow up with.
Aye.
Aye. That's done. Work sessions, town town administrator updates and reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 5.1, we have the National Fitness Campaign Grant. This is a matter that's been before the board once before. This is for the outdoor exercise court. There's a grant that's been offered, a $30,000 grant. There'd be a $30,000 match, which would be an expense borne by the Recreation Commission. You may recall, and Wayne, I think you were on, Don, I don't think you were.
I wasn't on, but I sat here the night they did the presentation.
So the discussion at the last meeting, and it's addressed in some of Emmy's backup information, is they had identified a location, the grass lot behind, the parking lot behind Town Hall as their preferred location. The pushback from the board at the time was to go identify other areas and put them through the paces to determine whether or not they'd be viable as well. The Recreation Commission advises that they've done that. They've looked at all town parcels through the GIS. They've looked at the availability of power, for lighting, the availability of facilities that might be required, and they come back with this same lot again as the preferred location, particularly because the grant requires that the location be proximate to a walkable center of a community, so people could frequent the location and then use the facilities in the town hall or get a bite to eat or something to drink locally. They look for additional consideration to areas that are adjacent to or able to be connected to bike paths. So part of the discussion was to work with the bike path committee to see about creating some parking at this location as well, because as you know, the trail is going to come right out pretty much over by Sam's and then tail off. But you'd have the opportunity for people to use the trail and then use the fitness court as well. One of the concerns last year was also that several times a year we utilize that space for overflow parking when there's town meeting or when there are elections, and the Rec Commission's response back to that is that they would, as a part of this project, see toward creating real parking instead of just having the grass during the construction of the project, create spaces sufficient that if there were people from the rail trail or people in the overflow from town meeting or election, they'd have places to park. So what they're looking for from you is your support to move forward with this grant opportunity at that location. And I don't know your thoughts on it. Don, this is the first we've had a chance to speak to it, so Wayne and I have talked in the past about it.
My only concern is still the same as one that I'll call it the hidden cost of prepping the land, doing the site or the parking lot, lighting. While this seems great on paper, I'm still a bit reluctant to dive into something without seeing what the ancillary engineering.
So you want to see the work plan? You want to see it laid out with basically a short form pro forma.
I understand the plot of land is fine, but there's 50,000 other things that I see needed to be addressed before that as a adoption of said site and plan, whether it can be done in conjunction with the rail trail. As far as parking, because making and grading parking lots is not cheap, nor is the lighting or the other security measures that we'd have to put in place. So
Yeah, wasn't that, if I remember correctly, that was raised when they were here for the presentation too?
it was. That was my concern back then, and it has not changed, so.
Yeah. And then part of their thought on on that issue was this is a central location, so it's more likely it's likely to be a safer location than other out of the center of town areas that they were able to consider. But I'm hearing clearly, having them come back with a pro forma that shows what the 30 plus 30,000 the grant and their funds does, what's left hanging off at the end of that, and what the plan is for those things.
Yeah, because I'm anticipating a very tight budget.
Sure.
Again.
Yeah, I mean, there's no request coming for money out of the general fund for this project.
Okay.
Okay, I'll report back to them on that.
Okay.
Thank you. And next, supplemental amount of fiscal 2020 Chapter 90 apportionment. You should have a copy of a memo from Mass DOT in your packets that the amount that we received for our apportionment this year from Mass DOT was $457,353, and this additional amount that they've authorized is $41,578. So there's nothing required of you. It's just notification to you and to the public that we did receive these extra Chapter 90 funds that'll be put to good use.
Go to the bank.
Next is the excess and deficiency calculation for North Middlesex and Neshoba Tech. So if you look in your packets at 513, you should have a copy of a document that comes in from the Department of Revenue showing that at the end of last year for North Middlesex, which is the first of the sheet, they either had more revenue or spent less at the end of the year for a total of positive $3,118,552. The law requires that they hold no more than 5% of their total operating budget in excess and deficiency. And each year, at least in the four now that I've been involved, they have pledged and in fact used $1 million+ in the operating budget for the next year. So my understanding is that of this 3.18, the current version of the budget pledges 1.3 million, and they're still working on their budget. They're in, I think, the third iteration, and they expect to have several more yet. Next page, you'll see that Neshoba Tech certifies $633,476 for their excess and deficiency.
Which is under the 5%.
It is, correct.
So same thing, they use that to offset?
They do.
Necessary, okay. Is there any way to compel them to do more than the 1.3? Because this sounds like they're using free money to me.
We had a budget subcommittee meeting last week, and a member of the finance committee from Pepperell was coming particularly strong on that issue and making the point that is your budget too big if you continually certify $3+ million at the end of the year? So instead of certifying $3+ million and then using some of it to offset the budget, why not find why it is that you keep certifying $3 million and make those cuts? That's where they are right now. They're going back and looking at if they can see what that trend has been and where those lines have come in with excess at the end of the year.
Okay.
They have a difficult job. The special education costs were something we spent a lot of time talking about. My counterpart from Pepperell raised the issue that last year there was a discussion that there'd be a significant savings in this coming year's budget based on the fact that there were a number of retirements and the positions were going to be refilled by people at a lower grade in the pay schedule. And in looking at the budget that exists now, that doesn't appear to exist in terms of those savings. So he asked why, and the response came back pretty quickly that based on the projected need for special education services, there are 9.5 positions, new positions, that are going to be required by law based on the certified plans that exist for students. And while that seems extraordinary, the point that I brought to the table is, while that is a big number, it's significantly cheaper than it would cost if those services had to be provided outside, at an outside facility or location. You're then paying for transportation, you're paying a higher cost for the service, and you're disrupting that student's life by having to send them in a vehicle someplace across the state. So the objective is to try to provide services in-house, but there's a cost to that. It's a lesser cost than doing it the other way, and it's just a better quality of life for the student.
Okay.
So,
More to come?
yes, much more to come. Much more to come being the very next thing. Budget update for North Middlesex Regional School District. Coming out of that meeting, and this was again, I think, probably the third version of their budget, and The back page is always the page to go to see exactly where we're going to be impacted at the local level. And as the budget currently sits, they're at a 3.78% overall increase for their budget, which is, it's data, it's interesting, but it's not really relevant to us because there's a formula that takes into account a number of factors between the communities that then spits out what our local contribution is going to be. Our local contribution based on their current version of the budget, which is, again, a 3.78% overall increase, our contribution is a $750,000 increase. To give you perspective, we, at the outer edge of the envelope, can generate an additional $500,000 from year to year. So what this would mean is the entirety of everything that could be generated wouldn't even cover, cover 2/3 of what their request is.
So we're kind of the same place we were last year.
And that's before even looking at any of the things we have to handle internally.
Okay.
So the message was left pretty clearly that this isn't going to fly. You can't expect that the community is going to be able to fund it within budget, and you definitely can't expect communities to submit overrides, particularly when people just got their tax bills within the last couple of months and are seeing impacts of what many people thought they've already been paying for 2 years, which is the school. So they've agreed that they're going to go back and they're going to sharpen things, and we've got another meeting scheduled for 2 weeks out.
Okay.
Next, you have 515, the Emergency Communication Consolidation Feasibility Study. This is not intended for discussion this evening. It is intended just to make a public unveiling of the document. We've been waiting for it for a good period of time. It's been made public in Pepperell already, one of the communities. So the 10,000-foot view is Pepperell is doing their own dispatch. Ashby is doing their own dispatch. Ashby needs to be someplace. We are in a region already at Neshoba. Is it the best place for us to be? And if Ashby needs to be someplace and Neshoba is good, but this might be better, is Pepperell a place for us to join? So the 3 communities, which then mirrors the 3 communities in the school district, so there's already a sense of continuity, have undertaken this study. It was done by Matrix Consulting Group. It's a very comprehensive document, 100 pages or so, and it comes up at the tail end with the recommendation that the town consider a regional dispatch with the 3 towns and divest itself from Neshoba. There are a number of steps between here and there, but at a future meeting, whether the next or the one after, at your direction, we'll have the vendor and the fire and police chief come sit in and be able to make a more formal presentation and answer questions.
So this is the first step to say yes or no?
The unveiling of the document at this point.
Okay.
And from there, they'll be far better informed to be able to answer questions you have.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely want to read. I've been following it with the chief, but I definitely want to
I haven't
read
gone through it
it.
yet myself.
But I do want to have them come in once we've had an opportunity
Absolutely.
to go through this.
Yes.
But I think we don't have another meeting scheduled until, I think it's March, the
Probably,
second
but
Tuesday in March.
we can discuss that as we get closer.
Yeah,
Here.
okay.
Schedule-wise.
And we'll get this posted up online as well on the website, on the front page, so people can get an opportunity to go through it at their leisure there.
Okay.
Next, we have 516, job description for water superintendent position. This goes to Todd's point earlier about when can we be moving away from an interim contract employee and having somebody on full again. So I don't know, Todd, if you wanted to say anything about the work you guys have done.
We went through it. The only kind of point that we made is there are some things that we're looking for. We'll accept a lesser, particularly like in the licenses. I think we kind of stipulated we're a D2 system and a T1 system, meaning a distribution 2, meaning you're a certain level and number of services of miles of main, and our treatment is a really basic level, so it's only a T1. In the original job description, it only required like an associate's degree or something to that effect. We left that, but we said preferred bachelor's for the superintendent, and we would prefer a D2 and a T2 licensed person. We left, we can accept a D2, T1, but we'd like to see that, and that was, I believe, left in there, wasn't it, Jen?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, once it gets approved, we're, waiting on your approval to be able to post it, and then we'll go about it. But just seeing the way the industry's going, more likely than not, at some point, we're gonna be required by AEP to do more treatment, and I would rather have, not me, the board thought this through and really want someone prepared for that, and having a T2 license would, if you don't already have the license, you can't get it unless you're working in a system for a period of time. So we just trying to think long-term and be prepared. And that was the only difference between what, I can't remember the gentleman's name who was doing the matrix, Jim.
David Colton?
Yeah, that was the only difference between what he put out and what we put out, and just some basic words on supervision and stuff like that. Okay. But we went back and forth a few times and came up with what I think is a really good, or the board thinks, excuse me, a really good job description for a new superintendent.
So your board's behind this?
Yes, sir.
As written, okay. So do you need a motion to?
It ultimately is your call at the end, so if you're satisfied that they're satisfied.
The only question I had is we're currently doing a complete overlook of all of our job descriptions. Has this been matched up with what they've been doing?
Yep, that's what Todd just said, is this actually came from Colton, the gentleman that's doing the job description review, provided to the Board of Water Commissioners. They've kicked it around, amended it where they thought it appropriate.
I think we also made a distinction between the superintendent and the primary operator and their responsibilities too.
Okay. So, and Colton is fine with what they're looking to do, and it just takes a vote of you, and then it becomes real.
Okay.
So I'd rather move forward with approving them and post it.
Yeah, I'd like to get going on it too.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the job description and for the water superintendent position, and anything else on that?
Nope, that's it.
What about posting?
We're ready to post.
All right, that's why I'm here. If you approved it, I will let Brenda know, and we'll get it going.
Okay, I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have at it, Todd.
If I may, I have one quick question for Jim that has to do with the budget. Have you, did Adam send you anything on the indirect costs okay, because I had a meeting with him before Thanksgiving, where I gave him all the documents on the accounting of the indirect costs between, that is straight from DOR.
Sure.
But I hadn't heard anything back from him on it or you, so I was just waiting to see.
I haven't seen anything from him. What I can do is I'll send an email to him tonight, and I'll copy you on it as well, just so he knows we're talking.
It's just, that way everything's on paper, it's trackable, traceable, and it's just better that way.
Gotcha.
Okay, next time. Next.
All right, next we have 517, vacant position update. Building Commissioner, Zoning Enforcement Officer. We still have the benefit of having Bentley coming in. He's been our alternate for coming on 12 years. He's in Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays by appointment. But he's getting burnt out, and I think that people have been tolerant of the fact that he's only here part-time, but as the weather starts to turn, we're going to need to have more than he's able to do part-time. So there are 3 candidates that have come in. So we originally posted internally, and he was the only internal candidate. We since had an external, and we have 2 additional candidates that have the qualifications. So next week, going to do an internal review of those candidates, and at your next meeting, have the recommendation to you for which of them the affected parties are going to be recommending. So we'll take people from each of the groups that interface with the building commissioner to get their opinion on the resumes that we've got.
And are we going with the current salary structure until we get that?
Everything has been, postings have not had a salary noted because we don't know what it's going to be yet. So the expectation is that we'll get a recommendation and then work with David Colton on, he knows right now where the position is going to rate in terms of the hierarchy of responsibility. They've also done the analysis on the financial comparability issues with other communities. So we'll be able to know it's not done and ready yet, but if we get to the point of having a candidate needing to secure them, we can just reach out and he can provide that information as a one-off.
Okay.
Something you just said about paper review, it sounded like, would there be interviews, live interviews as well?
Yeah, and with each of the affected departments. So the people that work mostly with the building commissioner are going to be the land use departments. So make certain that each of the chairs from each of the boards has an opportunity to sit into that interview and ask whatever questions they think are appropriate. Treasurer collector does a lot of work, and the assessors a lot of work with the building commissioner as well. So, but primarily to be the land use boards are the ones that are most active.
Okay. Which needs to?
Next, water superintendent we just addressed.
Oh, land use.
I'm sorry?
Land use.
Oh, land use, yes. Land use, we have 3 candidates. We did an internal posting and had no takers. It's a union position, so we did have an obligation to do that. We have 3 candidates, 2 of whom appear to have the qualifications and some experience. One has an impressive resume, no direct experience. So the same will hold true there. Within the next week, get the people in for interview and have the chairs of each board or commission available to sit on the interview and ask whatever questions they might have. The market is difficult right now, and it's particularly difficult given the fact that we have been on the lower end of the salaries. The thing we run into, though, to tie back to the discussion about North Middlesex budget a moment ago, is we are not in a position to easily implement a new comp and class plan if it's going to be a significant adjustment. So again, we can get the one-off information next week on the building commissioner and maybe the week after on the land use coordinator, but we've got to be mindful of the fact that there are other employees that are currently seated in these same, would ultimately be the same grades, and they're likely going to be being paid at a lower level because they're going to be under the old plan, and we just need to be mindful of what that looks like and how that's going to be felt.
Back to the water question, this
Yeah.
just made me think of it. Do you have a salary range that we can post for the job posting? Can
Not
you
yet.
send that to Brenda tomorrow?
Yeah, not yet.
Because the matrix needs to be
Right.
finished.
They've got it all done, they haven't put it together yet, so, I mean, if you make the executive decision on behalf of the water commissioners to say you really like that range, I can reach out to David tomorrow and it'd be
Because
a
I
little
don't know what
premature.
his
but-
range, what he has for a range for that.
Right, all we got right now is the old range. I mean, I haven't seen any of the economic data from
All right.
Colton yet. But I'll call him tomorrow before long in the morning. I'll reach out and give you a shout
All
and
right.
let you know when I get on.
Okay, thank you. Good, before we kind of need that before we post.
Sure. And we then have per diem library tech, a position that the library has posted. They had somebody that stepped aside, so they have another position available. So that one's really into the jurisdiction of the Library Board of Trustees. And the last is the grants administrator. We have had several applications. We have not had an application from a person that has the relevant experience to be able to do the work. I don't know what Lisa's heard in terms of who has applied. But it's a position that a number of communities are currently trying to fill. If you go on the MMA website under their municipal jobs, I've had some discussions with Pepperell and Lunenburg regarding working on a share, and Lunenburg is out of that discussion. Pepperell is still considering it, not fervently, but it's...
Well, it's a competitive situation. Or could be.
Some of it could be. I mean, if we're looking at economic development grants, yes. If we're looking at infrastructure grants, yes. So unless you're doing a joint project, you do get into the rub of having split allegiances. So, I mean, we keep refreshing it on the MMA website, and sometimes that's good, and other times people start to see the same ad and they wonder what's going on and why it hasn't been filled. So you got to, give it a break every so often as well. But
Okay.
When we listed it, what was the number of hours? I forgot. Is it
19?
19? Yeah,
19, yeah. Yeah, just under the benefited level.
Something.
Jim's right. And we can't just hire anybody, because I've done a couple of grants on my own. It's not easy.
No.
We don't want to throw good money after bad. We did have the benefit of having an employee in-house that had done a couple of DOT grants. She's currently on leave and is not expected back for a little bit of time. So we had talked to her a little bit to see if she had an interest. Then she was also the employee that we had talked to about if she wanted to be kind of the day-to-day boots on the ground, a couple of hours of IT. We've got neither because she's currently out.
So let's revisit that when she gets back, I think would be the best way to do it.
Okay. 5.18, IT update. The invitation for bids, they're due back next Friday, the 21st. We've had 3 interests, and one is the current group that we're doing time and materials with. Spoken about at the last meeting, we have Winslow Technology Group. They're the folks that did the infrastructure work for us. They came out and responded to an issue last week with the library. While they were there, they did some work with the senior center. And they're looking at an issue that we were having with the assessors, connection with the assessors' ability to get out to Patriot. So it's not optimal. It's not the best, but it's where we are right now with time and materials. Of the 3 that we've got now, we have Winslow, we have interest from White Mountain. They're the group that, they're local. They're affiliated with more enterprises in some fashion or another, so they do have people that are staffed locally. Their headquarters is in Nashua. So they've expressed interest and they'll be responding. And then Conway, which has been traditionally Conway Office Systems, also is submitting. They now have a managed IT division. So those are the 3 to date that I expect, and that's next Friday by the close of business.
Okay. Yes, Todd?
We had pursued looking at getting our own IT for the water department. Is that still acceptable?
Yeah, I've worked with Terry and Brenda on it.
Just because I know, because it is part of AWIA, the Water Infrastructure Act, is they do want water departments to have more control of their own cybersecurity and stuff like that.
Yeah, in terms of the SCADA system and all that stuff, absolutely, because it's like the police department and the fire department being on their own. They have proprietary software. The issue that we're going to have some overlap that we'll have to massage is the fact that you're still running off of our servers.
Correct.
In this building. So, if there's an issue with connectivity, is it your vendor or is it the town vendor proper?
Okay.
That's going to handle it. But those things will be worked out in the spec. I did work with Terry and Brenda on that spec to make it clear.
All right, good, thank you.
So you'll have basically a recommendation for contract next meeting, whenever we have that is. Okay.
And I know you both have an IT interest and background. Do you want to tag one of yourselves to be the second set of eyes to review the proposals before the next meeting? They can be sent electronically, so...
I don't mind doing it.
I've had it.
I'll do it.
Okay, so I'll forward them electronically and you can look at them
Okay.
wherever you are. If you have...
Nighttime.
Okay.
Nighttime reading.
All right. 3.19, discussion regarding 3% sales tax for recreational marijuana. This has generated a great deal of discussion. At the town meeting, this was a local option statute that was put forward by land use, and there was a bit of discussion on the floor that night about what authority land use has to submit an article. Just checking my own sanity, that very night I went back over the last 4 warrants to see if departments generally have submitted articles, and there's not a warrant. I went back probably 5 or 6 years where departments haven't submitted, whether it's been the fire department or the fire chief submitting, or the police chief, or land use, or another. So in terms of the issue of did they have the authority to, I don't have any reason to believe that there was anything untoward about it being submitted by the land use coordinator, Lindsay, who's no longer with us. I think we didn't get the opportunity to have a discussion on the floor of town meeting, so I think there may have been some sense of wonder about what this means, and is this meant to inspire a marijuana business to come to town? And it's quite the opposite when you think about it, because right now, if there's a company that's looking at this area, they want to be right on the border to try to capture Nashua traffic or something, and they look and they see that Pepperell has a 3% tax, and Lunenburg has a 3% tax, and Ashby has a 3% tax, but Townsend doesn't. It's obviously 3% is significant money on $1 million a month revenue stream. So I think quite the opposite. We'd be begging to be given consideration if we don't do this. So.
I spoke with Lance from the planning board at length about this. This is just adoption of the state ability to collect that tax, and
Correct.
I think it'd be remiss for the town not to take advantage of that, since we don't have a lot of tax revenue coming in anyway. And I have no issue with the board recommending that we adopt this tax at the next town meeting, and that's going to be my recommendation moving forward when we get to that point for spring town meeting.
Excellent.
Lisa?
Where would those funds be used for? What would the 3%?
I have a really good idea.
Roads?
Yes.
I didn't know if there was a specific place that they would be going.
It's a general fund, isn't
It's
it?
general fund, but we can direct them towards...
Yeah, they would go to the general fund, but there is an obligation to identify the increased cost that you're experiencing as a result of the use. So you'd have to be able to say with a straight face that, if it's $50,000, that we are using that $50,000 to do better lighting, or to provide, better communication, put another shift on, during the weekend. I mean,
But this is above and beyond any agreement we would enter.
the host community agreement is a separate thing entirely.
So
Correct.
this is just a regular state.
Yep. This would come
We'll
in
let
on
you
the
take
cherry sheet.
3%. We'll take
Right.
3%. So, okay.
And 5.1.10 I addressed earlier in the meeting. So just to recap for those that weren't here, I have received a complaint regarding an employee. I've completed my due diligence on it, and we'll have a report for you that we can agenda for the next meeting to be taken up under executive session.
Okay. All right. 5.2 Board of Selectmen announcements, updates, reports. So we have meeting schedule, and I have one more I want to talk about, so just see where we're at, because my schedule is a mess the rest of this month. So I think the next meeting schedule is March 3rd. Be a regular?
Nope.
No? You're
You
out?
had to move it because that's primary night.
Oh, that's right.
It's the 10th.
So the following week, the 10th. Are we going to need a session in between then for budget?
At your call. I know you're both... If we can get one, yes. But I want to be sensitive to the fact that we can call it as a meeting, and if one of you can be there, that's great. If you both be there, it's at least called.
I'd at least like to start one on that first week of March. with the finance committee?
Yep.
Or do we need the finance committee at all? Do we start with ours?
I think at that point, having the departments in and the finance committee would be great.
Okay, can you explore with them a
Yep.
date during that week?
Yep. See, the week of the 3rd?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. My announcement is I met last night. I'm part of the Wall That Heals committee that the VFW is deeply entrenched in bringing to the town. It's all but a done deal that it's going to happen August 20th, I believe it is. We're proposing the high school being the place. We've identified a particular part of the facility that this would be at. That's awaiting the school committee's approval. Their next meeting in 2 weeks, I believe you said they're meeting next. So with that, we're starting the fundraising, and we're also reaching out to surrounding communities. So Jim, I'm going to ask you if you could reach out to the 5 or 6 surrounding communities to elicit their involvement. We're looking for volunteers, people that want to be involved. There's quite a procession and ceremony of the structure coming in through town. I believe right now it's planned on being staged in Fort Devens with several police escorts, and
It's pretty impressive.
it is. So if you could reach out and see if their
Absolutely.
involvement, the fire department's deeply involved here, so like to elicit from the other towns if we can do that.
Yes, sir.
Not on here, I know we did have some correspondence with Jennifer and the gentleman from Ashby that was proposing the naming of the brook, who has since pulled the former name that they've had requested originally, and gone with Blackfly Creek? Brook Creek? Okay.
Yeah, made everyone laugh when he took it around Mason and asked. Everyone chuckled about it.
So there's no
He was
endangered
very
species of
amenable.
black flies, so I think we're all set there.
What was the other one?
So that's been pulled. I think we need to address our letter of recommendation or support for the lawyer that's filing that, so we can do that at our next meeting.
Gotcha.
If you don't mind. Don, I don't know if you have anything?
Nope, I have no correspondence.
Okay. 5.3, review approved meeting minutes from December 17th and January 6th, 2020, and January 14th.
I make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes. Can I do all 3 at once? or-
Yes, sir.
Okay. I approve the meeting, we approve the meeting minutes for December 17th, 2019, January 6th, 2020, and January 14th, 2020.
And I'll second. I didn't have any.
Nope, I have no issues.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5.4, review and sign payroll bills payable.
Make a motion that we review and sign payroll and bill payable warrants out of session.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So we have 2 more executive sessions. Executive session pursuant to GL Chapter 30A, S21A, 2 to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or conduct collective bargaining sessions, contract negotiations with non-union personnel regarding former police chief, and executive session pursuant to General Law Chapter 30A, S21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. An open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position or litigation position, and the chair so declares, and I do. All unions. Can I get a motion, please?
I make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, reference former police chief, and go into executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation in an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position, litigating position, and the chair so declares, reference all unions, and we will adjourn from...
Actually, if we may adjourn to open session briefly, because there is one matter that will require a public execution.
Okay.
That sounds terrible.
And then we will adjourn to executive sessions and return to open session.
Second. Roll call vote.
Don Klein, yes.
Wayne Miller, yes. We're out, Hartley. And we're back from executive session for one last vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if it please the board, it'd be a motion to approve the installment payment agreement document with Chief Bailey and the voluntary employment separation agreement and release of all claims addendum document with the installment payment agreement to be the public document and the addendum and release of claims to remain a personnel document.
Can I make a motion?
I make a motion, what he just said.
So stated.
So stated.
I'll second. Any questions?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to
And I make a motion that we adjourn at 8:40,
Oop.
nope, 7:42.
And I second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.